What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm going to be bringing you a disassembly of the Syncut San Angelo. And also, as a part of this disassembly, I will be going ahead and trying to tune that detent. If you watched the review video on this, you know that the detent was very light on this. So I will show you briefly how to go about doing that. Tools, I would go ahead and recommend getting you the Weeha bit kit. The really great bit kit and this stubby bit driver. I have those linked down below. If you like something that's a little bit more portable, because I do like to store, I have an assortment of things that I keep in my Maxpedition pack. So I keep this tool here. I have the Scout tool in case I need to have multiple sizes like we will today. So I don't have to keep switching the bits. I like to do that. I have my lock stick. I have my Loctite flashlight in case I need to see if I ever needed to pry anything or some scissors or anything like that. I have my Victorinox in case I need to take notes. I have a pen and I have a little notepad in here. Microfiber cloth. The lighter is for any type of lanyards, which I really don't do that often. I think I have them on 2 knives. Actually, I have them on 3. I lied. I took the one that came on my Amazon off and I replaced it with another Chris Reeve that was a little bit more of a color option that I wanted to upgrade to, but I have it on my Runt 5 and I have it on my Thug 2 because they're a little too small, so I need that for the extra grip. We're going to go ahead and get the disassembly going. T6s, T8s. Very simple, very straightforward. I prefer to take it apart from the lock bar side because that's where the pocket clip in is anyway, and I do this on with the knife open. So be very careful if you're following my exact style of disassembly to make sure that you're very secure and cautious with the blade so that you don't accidentally cut yourself. So pocket clip is disinstalled. I believe the tools are all linked way down at the bottom of all the description links that I have in there because I have some recommended knives, things of that nature. But towards the bottom I have the tools, and it should have the mat in there linked as well. But this is just off Amazon, a very basic Chinese made disassembly mat. I'll tilt it up so you can see it has like little storage compartments and everything on it. I keep the angle down low so you can see really well what's going on. So now that we've taken the pocket clip off, we don't need the T6 anymore. This does not have a captive pivot, which is part of how they are able to keep the price down. What I like to try to do at first is just use the finger to put a little bit of pressure there, and then I'll try to take the T8 off, and that usually works. If not, you're going to want a second tool, or you're going to want a Torque bit 8 size bit or bar so that you can lock one side and take it apart. With the pivot slightly loosened, I go ahead and completely remove the actual hardware from the back of the knife off of the standoffs. That is completely loose. I keep pressure here just so it doesn't lift up for any reason, because I don't want to cause anything to get bent out of shape, but G10 is pretty rigid and strong, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then with my finger on that other bolt on the show side, I keep that locked down so that I can get into it fairly easy. And this is going to be a really easy knife to disassemble, and this is a nice opportunity to clean it up in case there's any dirt from the factory. This one came nice and lubed, which is nice because my Saxy was very dry. Very, very dry. Now G10, because it is not a stainless material and they use stainless steel liners, you can go ahead and clean that oil off. You don't have to worry about letting that have oil to stick, but it's nice to see from the factory that it came like that. Next, you'll just lift up the lock bar a little bit to relieve some tension. You don't have to hold it off. Once you've released it, you should be able to work it loose, and I'm just checking really quick to make sure that there's no other bolts that have this liner locked down, and it doesn't. So with this off, you can go ahead, clean the lube off, then take a look at your liner. So you see how the liner is relatively close. What I recommend that you do is from the low point is you go ahead and just work it over slightly. And if you see like mine that it's bending, what I recommend you do is that you do that lift, but keep the liner down so that the liner doesn't bend. This is a very flexible liner, so it was bending. So just go ahead and take it and lift it up a little bit and make sure that you're trying to work from the bottom and not the top. So that's my recommendation. What I'm going to do so that you guys can see how I'm working it, I'm going to use the G10 as reinforcement for the liner. and then carefully just work it over a little bit, trying to create just a little bit more space. I'm going to try to get it to where I can clear. All right, so that's a little too much. So I'm just going to work it back a little bit. All right, work it over just a little more. All right, so it just barely clears the size of the scale, and that was nice because I was able to use the scale for reference of how much I needed to bend that. So I've worked over that liner lock a little bit. Again, I recommend you work from the table just so that you're careful not to actually bend it anywhere else, and try to get as close as you can to the factory bend to move that over. It has a very small detent ball, but hopefully with that being moved over, I've increased the detent enough to be able to actually not fail the knife. So I always move the stop pin out of the way. I move the the blade out of the way, as that escaped me. And now what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and do a dry cleaning, because this oil looked very clean. Didn't see any dirt, wasn't discolored or anything like that. And then I just put my oil preference. Make note as well, all the Civivi sim cuts have the caged closed side facing out and the caged open side facing the knife. So just make sure you note that. I always say check your knife when you're disassembling it, just to make sure. Once you have everything clean, using the oil of your choice, no judgment here. I would not use WD-40. I guess that would be the only thing that I would recommend. I use hoppers because I like it for my pew-pew, and if I trust it on my pew-pew, then I definitely trust it on my pocket knives to keep them nice and lubed and performing well. Just a few drops around there, don't go crazy. Again, make sure when you're dropping this one that you're doing it with the closed side up in this instance, because that's how it came apart. Then I do take just a little bit, I don't know why I put the top back on that, just a little bit of lube if you've not watched my other disassemblies, and I just drop a little bit on the pivot. Not too much, nothing crazy. Then I will go ahead and drop the blade down first. Then I will actually partially close it so I can put the stop pin back in place. You would think it'd be the easy other way, but what I have found is that it always falls out anyway. So I just prefer to go in this order. Doesn't really matter, but make sure that it's all put back. Now what you want to do, this doesn't look like it got too clean, does it? It looks a little smeared. There you go. Looking a little better now. Same thing, couple drops here. You don't need anything really crazy, to be honest. The ceramic bearings with a little bit of lube are going to be feeling super, super smooth. Now with that back together, this is the perfect opportunity to place a little bit of lube on your detent ball. Trying to get a reflection here so I can see through the camera. Whoa, that is too much. Too much, too much, too much. The reason I say that's too much is because you don't want it on the face of the lock bar, because it can create lock stick. So you just want, hopefully there's enough. Yeah, there's a little bit left. Just a little bit. That looks like it's plenty. I'm just going to wipe right here on this side with the finger a couple times. Oh, I think I touched the oil, to make sure that it's not locked. You can even take the cloth and just rub it across underneath, and it should make sure that's nice and dry. All right, now at this point, you'll go ahead, throw your skeletonized scale back on. While you're holding it down, just slide the G10 spacer back in place. At this point, I would go ahead, it's not really putting too much pressure, but I would go ahead, hold it down in place, and get your pivot bolt back started. Go ahead and just use your tool to get that down to where it's snug, but not overly tight. That should let you get pretty close. And then you'll go ahead and bring your T8s, put them back in place. Large hand problems. Getting those bolts back in the hole is a little bit of a, oh, these are T8s. What am I doing? Is a little bit of an obstacle. So this one here, you can go ahead and snug it all the way down. And then same with the back bolt. You can go ahead and tighten that all the way down. At this point, I have found that generally once you get this locked in, I usually take it all the way tight, and then if you've done enough of these, you know, a quarter of a turn usually keeps it, actually that's a little loose, usually keeps it pretty close to being where you have no blade play, but then you have buttery smooth action. Oh yeah, see, I tried to fail it, and what I was doing before, it was much easier to fail, but now when I'm trying to fail it, between the slight improvement on the detent and the oil, yeah, so I can fail it, but I have to really concentrate. But the detent feels much more snappy already. It's nice and centered. Just a little bit of blade play. Let's go ahead and fix that. Just a hint. Micro turns, once you get close, that will eliminate the blade play without making it so tight that you lose that nice action. Yep, wait. Just a little bit left. Okay. Nice and centered. Oh yeah. Go ahead and reinstall your pocket clip. Hopefully your screws aren't falling out like mine. I'm not quite sure why it's fighting me so much today. And then once you have the pocket clip reinstalled, I don't think I'm in the hole there. There we go. Did the other screw come out completely? Well, if you run into this issue where it wants to stick out, you're just gonna have to negotiate with it to go back in. And hopefully it'll go back in a little bit easier for you than it did for me. This one here doesn't feel too good, so I'm just gonna try to back it out a little. There we go. Went in nice and smooth. You can make sure these go in pretty snug. You do not need to over tighten these because they are T6 and they can easily strip. Once they get like to the point where they stop and you meet some resistance, I recommend you just stop at that point. Let's go ahead and check it one more time. Make sure. All right, just a little hint. There's still a little hint there. Now it's gone. Action's good. Yeah. Detent feels better too. You can just tune the detent until it gets to the point where it's at where it feels good to you, and you will be good to go. So hopefully this video has helped you if you were interested in a disassembly video for the San Angelo Sin Cut. I hope that really did help you, as well as how to tune the detent. If it did, if you could do me a favor, leave a like. I'd appreciate it. I would appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and following along. I'd love to have your support. If you are already subscribed, thanks for the continued support. I appreciate that as well. I hope all of you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.